Hi, everybody. It's Deborah Carter here with Preparation Tech. Today, I have yet another wonderful interview as part of our Black History Month 2021 series. Today, I'm speaking with Ackeem Ngwenya, and he is a designer and an entrepreneur, and he's revolutionizing the eyewear industry with tech. So before I say any more, I'm just going to hand it over. Welcome, Ackeem. Thanks so much for being here. Let's
Thank
start
you.
off by you telling us what you do and explaining how it relates to technology.
We design eyewear products for Black people's nose profiles. That is because traditionally eyewear products are not designed to fit my kind of nose profile. And so we use technology such as 3D printing and augmented reality to facilitate the design and creation of eyewear products that can fit a Black people's nose profile comfortably.
So tell us a bit more about like why it is a problem, because I hate getting glasses. Okay, it never, like, I'm happy with these, but it took me literally hours and hours of finding glasses and finding people who were honest with me and who stood like Black faces. Why is this a problem for Black people? What goes wrong in this process?
Um, so I think the main issue is it has to do with who is behind making the decisions. So if the people that make such decisions are generally, let's say, not representative of Black people, or there's not a Black person in the team, or in any respect, whether it's a Black person or women as well. Um, Such a composition tends to produce products that reflect their own, or just how they look like, or how they appear. And so glasses, in this instance, are produced to reflect the facial features of people that are in charge of such decisions. So I generally like to say that traditionally glasses have Caucasian nasal features, and that would be sort of, I guess, an outcome of that composition of decision making. I guess. As a design process, we obviously start with a sketch and we go through a series of sketches and say, okay, we like this, we don't like that, maybe we can change this, we can change that. And that is just on a piece of paper, drawing like a standard, I guess, what everyone assumes a designer does. And then we convert this 2D, two-dimensional drawing into a dynamic drawing on a computer program or in a 3D program. By dynamic, I mean that the program or the design is able to change based on input parameters. So if I say change the width of this design, the width would change, and let's say other features would change accordingly.
So nose size, eyes,
yes,
yeah.
Correct. So those changes as input comes from person to person,
right.
And then from this, this design is then run through our algorithm, which essentially creates three-dimensional version of the glasses that you might wear. So then, yes, exactly. So you then, I guess the glasses, so let's say like these ones over here, you would be able to see them, or just I am able to see them in a computer, how they look like. And then from this point, then once we're happy with the creation, because we validate and confirm that it fits, it suits our requirements, and then we send it off to our production partner, so a 3D printing company, that then produces those glasses, and they send them back to us, and then we send them to the customer. So that's I guess, the process behind the development of the glasses.
So you talk about Afropolitans, the term Afropolitans in your marketing, and I just loved it. So I'm hearing Afropean, Afropolitans. What is an Afropolitan?
But the way we as a reframed version of an Afropolitan. Of course, there's the Metropolitan and the African that forms this word. And we think more of people of African descent, not necessarily in Africa, African and African descent. So you could be in, let's say, in New York, in London, in Berlin, in, I don't know, Tokyo, but your life essentially is informed by the city landscape. And so this is also informs your visual outlook, your social interactions, and you are embedded within a cityscape, kind of. So this would be, I guess, a very basic definition of what we think of an Afropolitan. But also, I think from a much deeper level, we'll think more of an Afropolitan as someone who is constantly interacts with people from different cultures, not only themselves, someone who is not at home just in one city, but has traveled the world, is, how do you say, is culturally, let's say, insightful, is active or proactive in terms of, let's say, civil rights, if we were to put it in a US context, or someone who is active in the sense that they, suppose they buy something from a particular brand, they want to know who is behind the brand, what do they stand for, do their values align with my values? Am I buying products from a brand that would use Black people in general in their let's say, marketing campaign, but have zero Black people in their executive board? So this is sort of the kind of an Afropolitan who says, okay, if you want to take my money, I would like to make sure that at least I'm represented on your decision-making process. The person who takes the largest share of that money is at least, I don't know, doesn't have to be necessarily me, of course, someone who I can say is similar to me in some respect, or at least who has similar values to me as a person. So that is, I think, what we think of an Afropolitan is someone that is wanting to make the world a bit better, happens to be African or of African origin.
I love that. I love that you make this such an important part of your business model. And I do think that, especially the younger generations are much more key to this. They want to know that the brand aligns with their values and their experiences and perspectives. Ackeem,
Exactly.
I see a product designer in front of me, very talented, exciting, changing the world. Take us back to your childhood. Tell me about your childhood. What kind of kid were you? What did you like to do? Is there a reason why you are an eyewear designer, product designer, entrepreneur because of something that happened to you in your childhood?
When I was in high school, I used to go to a music school. I think I went to a music school, but I didn't do any of the music. I was just doing regular studies in high school. And once my headmaster looked at my sketchbook, because as I said, I used to draw, and he looked at my sketchbook by accident, I think. And then a day later, he told me that there was an art school somewhere, and he wanted me to go there if I was interested in going there. But instead, that very same afternoon, I walked from my school, I think, for, I don't know, an hour or half an hour or so, and made my own way to this art school. And there, I asked the lady at the receptionist that my headmaster told me about this school, and I would like to come here. So I thought before he does it, I'll just do it myself. And so I think that's essentially how things started for me, and they agreed to cover my tuition after seeing what I could do. And then, yeah, so I was every day after school, I would go to the art school where I would draw and paint. And that went on for about 2 years. And towards the end of high school, I think there came up, there was a call for anyone, any of the kids from disadvantaged backgrounds. So this, you can imagine it is Cape Town in this case. And most of most of parents that send their children to art school are relatively, let's say, are mainly white kids. And so they're asking if anyone from disadvantaged backgrounds would like to go to Stellenbosch, which is a historically very Afrikaans place,
University. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
also very Afrikaans university. Anyone would like to go to Stellenbosch University for an assessment. And me, and I guess being one of the few Black or colored kids, maybe or not, and colored kids in the school, they took us one day to the university, where we went for an assessment. And the purpose of the assessment was to essentially give such kids tuition to go to the university. So I think I did well in the tuition. I was then awarded a full scholarship, so which would cover my tuition, accommodation, and let's say other costs. So it was actually really good for me in this respect, because my parents would definitely not have been able to pay for that.
This is
Um,
South Africa after apartheid, right?
yeah, so this would be 2006.
Wow.
2007, that's when I started.
So already there were kind of affirmative action programs there to help disadvantaged kids.
Of course, yes, because that already would be 11 years after democracy. Or yes, after the fall of apartheid, of course. And so I think the university as well, seeing that of course the demographic of the country was not so much that the demographic was changing as such, but maybe the composition of students in the country was changing, and I think the university also actively was trying to make sure that they're not often associated as an Afrikaans university. And so they deliberately try to get as many Black and colored kids that they could get into the university. Yeah. By this time, there had already been for several years, maybe already a larger group of non-white students. But still, I was relatively, at least in my class, I was a jewelry designer at the time. I was I think I was the only Black kid in the class. But there were several other non-white kids in the department, in the art department. Yeah.
That's amazing to go from this. I mean, the country changed so quickly. I mean, Stellenbosch University was the university for the white minority, right? So then
Correct.
by the time you come, it was basically desegregating. That's fantastic. So,
yeah.
So from there, you actually went and got a degree at the Royal College of Art in London. So you must have been awesome. You must have been you are so talented that you managed to get to London. Tell us about what happened at the Royal College of Art.
Being on the program itself was the Royal College of Art is an amazing place to study at. And the people you meet there are incredibly bright and incredibly smart, and they're from all parts of the world. And you're in this class, and everything is sort of fishing out of the water. That is my experience was. And the core purpose of the degree program is that it takes students from different academic backgrounds. So it is different in that you don't go through this linear transition that you I don't know, let's say undergrad in medicine and then you go to postgrad or something of the sort. So I, as an art student or design student, I was in the same class as engineers, and I think someone was a doctor, someone was also from a financial background, and would be in this class for 2 years, trying at least what the degree program said it wanted to do is come up with solutions that have a meaningful impact in the world, so to speak. And there were 3 pillars that they particularly looked at. So whatever project you're working on, it had to be innovative to some degree. So that has a sort of a business aspect. Of course, since it was a design degree program, it had to have a design aspect. And also, as the program was within the Imperial College, which is traditionally an engineering or technical school, it had to have an engineering aspect. So hence the innovation, design, engineering, what the degree program is called. And that's essentially what you do in every program. The emphasis is on group work, with assumption that it's much easier to solve problems if you're working as a group than if you're working as an individual. And also it's often unlikely that the one person has both the business, design, and engineering backgrounds. So you would sort of complement each other in the group. And so that's how we work for 2 years. But because it is a master program, you have to pass on your own merit, not as a group. So you have to have a master project. Yeah.
Wow.
That was, yeah.
And what about the tech aspect? What kind of technology were you exposed to? What kind of tech skills did you acquire there? Yeah, what kind of software, what kind of tools, tech tools did you use?
You have you have an introduction to Arduino, I think we also had an introduction to SolidWorks and Inventor and Rhino, but these are just introductions. And I think after a week or so, you can't really say you are competent in such programs. And also, since you're in a master program, the assumption that you already have somewhat experience with similar programs. And since your groups also are made up of designers and engineers and other people, so the assumption is also that the designers on the group already have experience with the design tools, and the engineers have experience with the engineering tools, and so if someone else has experience with other tools in their particular history. So I think it's a very smart way to actually, let's say, bypass these it's just a teaching requirements.
Exactly, and you have other people teach you. So the engineers were exposing you to theirs. You were exposing.
Yeah.
So that's a great collaborative way of teaching, of learning.
Exactly. That's I think what makes the program so powerful is that you mostly learn from other students. And if you have a problem, I think chances are you would ask someone in the student body than you would ask the lecturers. And also, I think the way the program is set up, it's almost not impossible, but difficult to have a lecturer who's competent in so many different fields. So it works really well. And again, with the emphasis on group work, makes it quite clear that for you to achieve a very good outcome of your group, you have to rely on the competency of your class, of your classmates.
Mm-hmm. I want to read something that you wrote on your LinkedIn profile, because I think it was really deep, and I want to then relate that back to Reframd. So I'm going to read it. Quote, design decisions have the power to shape whether societies are inclusive or not. We can design our way out of these problems and many others like them and end up with a more equitable society. Please explain what you mean by that, and especially in the context of what you're doing with your eyewear brand.
Through design and creativity, we can design our way out of such blind spots by I think fundamentally, let's say, making sure that the people that make decisions or in the decision-making body is inclusive. That inclusion is part of that participation and representation. But I don't just want to see that you have Black people in your ad campaign, as I said earlier, but what is your executive body made of, right? And there's no point in hiring hundreds of Black janitors if they're not making any meaningful contribution to a given company. So I think that is essentially the underlying approach. Sorry, that was a bit of meandering answer, but
no, but I think it's really good, and it's like this is the context for why you started Reframd, which is so good. On that note, So if you're saying that we need to make sure that Black people, Afropolitans are in the game at all different levels, my question to you is what can schools be doing? Because we need to be preparing future generations to be those product designers and to be the people who think up products and services. But is there are there things that schools can be doing better to be producing kids with these kinds of skills?
Um, yes, yes, I think so. But of course, it depends on the school. But I think for the most part, it's becomes an issue of how we cultivate curiosity in students. That we don't just accept that something works, but maybe try to understand why such things work. And if they don't work for a particular setup or context, why do they work in one aspect? Why do they not work in another aspect? And I think that is a very important part, is to just be inquisitive. And I think for the second part would be the students should have a sense of self-confidence to try things and not worry too much whether something's going to work or not. And I think for the most part, it is the fear of failure that sort of, or yes, fear of failure or fear of looking stupid after failure that stops people from trying new things. So if we can cultivate kids, students that, of course, you're going to fail, right? But that take failure as part of the process, and you can learn from it and you become better. I think that helps already in terms of, I don't know, coming up with ideas, trying new things that might lead to coming up with new ideas. Yeah, at least that's what I think works for me. I fail a lot, I think, like most people, and that that is fine. And I think some of my ideas are really stupid. Some some are good, and maybe very few, if any, I could say very good. But that doesn't stop me at all. So I think the approach would be maybe taking, if you look at a 2-year-old child, like my daughter, if she tries something and she fails, she tries it again until she gets it better. And I think all kids have this innate ability to just try things over and over until they get better at it. But somehow we lose that. So if we can, I don't know, if we say recall or recultivate this approach to life, I think would be really good. And in addition to that, at least what worked for me is to try to solve problems that are closer to myself, whether at home or in my immediate environment. I think this is for one, it makes you become very aware of what the problem is and what impact it has on your immediate environment. Right. So if when it doesn't have to be a complicated problem, it can be a very simple problem. So when I think my classmate, not my classmates, my brothers and I didn't have we had a mattress, but we didn't have a bed to put the mattress on, right? So we just we build a platform on which to put the bed on or the mattress on. So as I said, it's not a complicated problem. It's just an approach you have that, okay, I can do something about this particular deficiency that I have. And that is, I think, also very key, that you as an individual, no matter who you are, you have the capacity to make a difference, to make I don't know, to make the change that you want to achieve.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to ask you one last question, and that is, how do you, Ackeem, want to be remembered by the Black community in history?
Well, I actually do not think, I've not thought much about it in terms of wanting to be remembered for any particular reason or in any particular way. Mainly because of it is of my own personal I don't know, disinterest in, let's say, what I would say hero worship, kind of. So I do not like role models. I do not like icons. I do not. It's not that I don't see someone doing great things because that person's amazing and they're doing really great work. No, of course, that I can acknowledge someone doing that, but I personally do not like this part. So I think for me to, I don't want to be remembered in any particular way. My family, of course. I think my daughter might remember me if I don't, if I'm a really good father. I hope I can become that. But I think more than that, I think it's just I think for family. I think maybe if family can if I can make a meaningful impact to my family, my daughter's life, that I can make sure at least that she's in a better position in the world than I started. Just that I'm in a better position than my parents. I think that is what is more important for me. That at least every generation gets a bit better. That maybe she doesn't have to go through the same struggles and sufferings, that she can just go do whatever she wants to do, whether it makes money or it doesn't make money, but if she makes her happy, and that will be good. So I think my goal is just to, I don't know, provide enough security for her to flourish in the world. Yeah.
That is a beautiful way to end this interview. Ackeem, thank you so much. Your story from this little boy in a village in Africa to Berlin, where you started a company that is literally going to, I think, shake a whole industry. I'm just so impressed and so glad to know you, and I wish you all the success in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deborah. It was a pleasure.